Hey everyone, I'm here with another video. Today is another Q review between GoBum and ZXQFL. I think GoBum is actually based almost a Dom player, but I could be wrong. I've only seen them play a couple times and they're pretty strong. So we see a really typical opening. This game, the theme. So I've gone through this game a little bit before this. My basic theme is strategic simplicity. Like trying to maintain a very simple strategy, because sometimes you don't need to make things too complex. I will give a couple comments. One is typically this opening, this shape with black following up here is a bit better for black. The reason is basically if black gets to develop on both sides, on these two sides, it's basically impossible to make a good use of this bottom influence, because black's gonna. You can't develop the center because there's nothing to really do, and then black's positions are so strong that you can't really attack anything with the influence. That's why typically instead of this move we see this one, which would also be really good here because the upper left is a 3-4 point, so this restricts a little bit of the left side, which means that later it's even harder for black to approach the upper left. Or if white encloses the left side, is very difficult for black. But that being said, white played here. You do see this shape being good if the bottom right is a star point, and that's because this influence helps to reduce the more center-oriented black here. And of course, once in the game, black has an enclosure, so that also has center-oriented influence. But the efficiency for black is not as high. Like, let's say black encloses here. This efficiency is not as good for black because the corner is still open. There's still potential for white to reduce the territory here. So in terms of influence, it's the same, but black has less points. But in this case, the influence is not is equally useful as the other case. For the most part, it's a line over, but it's basically the same. But black has secure points in the corner, which is not as good. So it's more efficient for black to play that way. But anyway, so white approached here. I think it would be much better, personally, to enclose. To prevent black from not developing, but if black approaches from the bottom left, it makes it so that white will have no area of development, which will be annoying, I think. But this is fine. I also would prefer approaching this way if we're going to approach the upper right. Because now if black pincers, right, I did say it was hard for white to use this influence, but it can be useful to invade. It breaks up a formation on the right, compared to if we get very solid shape and black plays like this. An invasion is now a little bit harder, or this one's a bit better balance for the bottom side. But we do see this result, so Kobayashi-ish shape. But the problem is black approaches, yep. And the feeling this game is that black has gotten decent, if not favorable results in all corners. White in exchange has a position on two sides. You know, black didn't really build positions here, but you see that because black had the answer at R14 and the poking out at C6, it doesn't really matter that black didn't develop these sides, because it's really hard for white to gain anything there anyway. Actually, it's hard for anybody. Like, black can gain, but if white takes it away, it's not a big loss. So this opening is pretty favorable for black, in my opinion. White pincered. Not sure why. I personally would just play something like this to develop the top side. This is kind of Joseki, but this would be not so great here because white could basically give it to black and then maybe start trying to develop. Like, this limits it because it's a little bit unreasonable. I guess you could attach here in this case. But you would want to... It's hard for black to really surround the left easily. Like, with no... If here you can attack, and if here there's a potential invasion and or reduction. So I would personally just rather take my points at the top. Because if black plays here, or white plays here, even if white disrupts the left side, so very simple Joseki here. This is kind of standard. In this case, black could I don't know, probably just take a big point, because even if white plays here, it's not very, doesn't really do much. It depends a little bit how you see this top group. I think it's pretty strong because you have this attachment, and you still have this kind of leaning move to make shape in the center. So I wouldn't really worry too much about it. So I think if you compare the size of white making something on the left compared to black's development on the right, I'd rather take the development on the right. But black attached this is a mistake. White should extend, which white didn't. But the reason it's a mistake is now c12 is in the perfect place to basically cut black. This might be a case of like a little bit of narrow tunnel visioning, like you recognize the attachment, so you're like, ha, hane, you know, because you know with d14 you hane. But with this particular pincer, it's usually much better to extend, which looks like bad shape because you're a move away from bumping your head into something. But the extra early hane, even though it's bumping your head, c12 is in the right place to give you support. So we get a weird result here. I don't know how to think about, like, you could cut here and do this, but after this, now white c12 stone is really, really hard to do anything with. Like, if you do this, you're just stuck between two living groups, and again, it's a smaller area, but it's also really hard to give that up now, because on a large scale, we get something like this. It's kind of annoying for white, so I don't know. Maybe just taking is okay. I think this move is good. You could live here, but after black answers, you're going to have a group that you can have to take care of that doesn't coordinate well with your bottom side. So this is a nice idea. The problem comes in a little bit when white jumps here. White already, when you make this exchange, you're saying, oh, black, go take this area, right? I want to take the outside over here. So white's follow-up should be like this press or this jump, right? Like if you press, then you just get something like this. Pretty okay. The danger is the cut, which I think is a little bit dangerous considering the strength, but it's hard to say. But for sure, you should definitely not be trying to save this stone. Just jump is fine. And later in endgame, this is actually really big because you have this in Sente. And now if we look at the whole board, maybe a move here, you start to see that the center is getting quite large and decent. Pretty, like, it's like the left is a lot of territory for black, but white was already behind before that, and I think this is starting to look a lot better for white. And if black plays somewhere else, which is totally possible, then you don't have to do anything. You can just go somewhere else, invade. But eventually later, you might have the chance to make a jump here, and now you have a connected shape. Or you could attach, which would be a bit more severe, but you have to watch out for the potential counterattacks like this. So it depends on your reading skill. I would probably play this. It's a bit more forceful. If black plays here, white's pretty happy to press black a bit lower. Black peeps, nice strategy, and then tenukis, bizarre. We make some forcing exchanges, not sure why. This just makes black stronger on the outside. I'd rather just take care of this stone directly. If black takes this, it doesn't really matter too much. And then we go somewhere else. I think black probably should have come here, kept the pressure, and then maybe just take the stone. There's not really a good way for white to link up without ruining the bottom influence. At the same time, even though there's this kind of weak point, it doesn't really work too well right now. So black can isolate and keep harassing this group. White turns, so taking care of our group is good. White really cares about these two stones. Yes, if you save them and you get this cut later, and then you can cut here, then it's under pressure, but that's 3 steps away. It would be much better, right? You imagine black's going to have a strong group here, because this is a lot of moves to really get to harass this. Imagine this is strong, then we should probably reinforce our weak group at the top, right? That makes a lot of sense. You know, black defends, then everything's alive and strong, so we can go reducing black. Or if we think, you know, we're behind on points, which you kind of are, then we can make ourselves stronger like this, right? And bit better for points. Black has Sente, but can't have everything. Save the potential in the upper left for later. We're playing second line moves. Now d14 somehow in a really good place. For playing second line moves to save 2 stones, that basically giving these now really hurts this top side group. So strategically we're taking a small gain for a big loss, which is not good. But that's not what I really want to focus on. I wanted to focus more on keeping things simpler, which is what I want. There's one really good moment in a bit that I thought was pretty interesting. So here we look at this black, really big moyo, and we see that white pulls this stone out, basically saying, I'm going to attack this group. That's not the concern you should have when you see this moyo. This moyo should be, hey, I had a group here. What happened to my group? Maybe we should help our group somehow get a bit stronger. I'm not sure what the best move is, but these would be the ones that come to mind. This we can always aim to pull out later. If black says like, oh, I don't want to get cut, aren't we pretty happy? Like, we get this group here, and then now we can aim at some sort of reduction move or invasion here. Invasion's probably better. It seems bigger than the center. Again, maybe not. I think white's behind, but it's definitely possible white could catch up if black makes mistakes. It's better. This is too desperate, because if black just takes this or jumps, right, you can't realistically expect these 2 stones to have an advantageous attack on this group, because there's so many black stones around, and your top is getting destroyed. Well, it's already destroyed, but even more destroyed. If we look at the game here, in the end, white ends up going back to trying to make a living group here, but now, because black has pushed through this shape, white's has worse eye shape than before, and black is now even stronger on the outside, because we tried to do something, failed, and then changed our minds. We could just... It might have been optimism, so it might be a misjudgment about the strength, but if we imagine this, and I say, oh, black is strong, we should get strong, it's much, much simpler. Okay, so white, this has to live in, this is ridiculous shape, but okay. This is actually a decently good result for white, considering what you started with. But at this point, the game is pretty hard, and white has to do something desperate like this. Again, I don't know why at this point. Normally here, the reason is that you can attach here, or slide and attach here. Like, it's much easier to live on the third line for making a base. But somehow white lives. Somehow white seems to get a lot if white doesn't die. This is so weird. Well, looks like white's dead. And white died. Okay. I think the game's pretty much over there, so I'm going to call this this video here. Pretty quick review. I didn't have a lot of comments. I think the main thing was white got tricked here, which is, you know, something that happens. And then white kind of, and then the next big one is this the strategy of giving up the stone. I think is fine. The problem becomes when we then try to change our mind and save the stone, and then we say, oh, like here, this exchange, not the peep, but these two, these are making it so that this area is smaller, so we should be more willing to give it up. Then we went up and jumped and tried to save it, and now we say, hey, I want to take care of this side, but that means black can push. Again, suggesting that you're going to give this side up, or that you're saying that side's not so big. And then we change our mind and come back here anyway. Which means, oh, now black goes here. We keep flip-flopping between our strategies, which means that we're filling a lot of holes. Like, we have these things we need to take care of, right? Before we had to take care of this, now we have to take care of these stones, and before we had to take care of this. But if we didn't ever play this peep, like, maybe white think, oh, this is a good exchange. Okay, I can understand that. But then we should just follow up and give up this side. This is actually not so bad, because now this peep, this one leaves worse odds with the cut compared to, and the influence here is not important because white's already here, generally. But we flip-flopped a few times. So maybe white's over-focused on their groups, but white's not really seeing that this top is getting really, really destroyed. Yeah, and then we made a final miscalculation by being desperate. They could have been desperate because they're losing, but again, it's especially at Q level, it's much easier to wait for your opponent to make a mistake and play solid and win that way than trying to induce some really bizarre complication. Because normally at a Q level, if you play solid in the lead, also you'll tend to win. Like black here, this is still fine. I don't actually think this can die, but if you're worried, really solid. Just here, it's a game. I think black is better, but playing solid gives white more chances, you know? So anyway, very quick review. Hope it was useful. Hope you learned something. And thanks for watching. See you next time.